It's Gadget UK here again. Super exciting video for me. I always say that. Well, more often than not. It's either that or it's been an absolute nightmare. Well, this one hasn't been a nightmare. This is, yeah, super exciting. Je t'aime. Je t'aime. Oui, je t'aime. Just have a look at the beauty we're going to fit in here. So it's really simple, elegant board. There are hardly any components on here. It is incredible. Mr. Leary has done it again. This time he's gone with a different flavour of chip. He's gone with the lattice. So he's experimented with FPGA stuff here, I think, because I don't think it's a CPLD. And also we've got Xilinx supporting that as well for some of the other stuff. And two 32 megabyte RAM chips. So we've got 64 meg of RAM. And this is currently set to 50 megahertz. Now I might do it within this video. He gave me a firmware for this to upgrade the lattice to run at 75. But also, can you see down here? There's like a little what's it called? It's the serial flash chip that this uses. You know, the FPGA boots from. So you need to replace the code on that. Now I think at the time of well, this particular proto, there was no way to easily program that. Stephen did say you should in theory be able to program it programmatically via the JTAG connections and stuff, I don't know, somehow, or via the Amiga itself perhaps, but he's not had time to work it out. So at the moment I'm faced with having to take that small chip off, program it in my programmer, solder it back on, and then use the JTAG to update the CPLD and the lattice. Oh, sorry, the lattice doesn't need it, does it? It gets it from here. Yeah, I always get confused. These don't need programming, I don't think. I think the JTAG is primarily for that, and I think this gets its code from that. Yeah, does that make sense? You can see I've got heatsink on there. Obviously done some testing on this. It's really nice. There are a few things I've done. I tidied up these wires here. There were a few bits of extra, you know, wire and stuff hanging on. The cable had melted a little bit, so I tidied that up because it was thrown together very kindly by Stephen and sent to me for free of charge as a Christmas present. Actually, I had this December 2020, so it was a lovely surprise Christmas present from Mr. Leary. Well, look at all the stuff on the underside as well. So I've got the VRM, just the same as you get on the 1260 there. There's another one there. Is that for 1.8 volts or something for the lattice? It might be, or 1.2 volts even. And then some bus transceivers there, I'm guessing. Some more over here, look. Loads of little chicken feed, you know, as Stephen calls them. Caps, resistors, resistor arrays. It's lovely. Nice Cal connector, brand new. So yeah, that is just absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to start using this to play all the demos and things. And I have got my full 060 on here, so it's an R6 and it will run at 100 megahertz. I tested that on the Falcon a while back. I also added these little caps. Originally the footprint was empty there. I just fitted them because I had them. I thought, why not? Why not fit them? But they don't need to be there. It works fine without them. I just fitted them because the pads were there. You know what I'm like? I see something, I see a pad somewhere, I'm like, I'm going to fit something. I'm going to carefully reach in here and disconnect the 030 card. I was using this a few videos back to test some FPUs. It's got one of those ones from China there that was marked 40. Doesn't run at 40. However, it's got a question mark there. Can you see that? I wrote that on. But it does run at 25, so yeah, that's nice. At least this one's got a 25 megahertz FPU now, because that's the second one of those I've got. Because of course I've got the motherboard that featured in this case when I bought it. That will be a separate video. I'm gradually working my way through that board. So we just need to sort of tilt it in slightly. Move this power cable out of the way, I think. And really carefully try and align that. They're not the easiest things to get in, especially with the drive bay being there on the A4000. I can't even get a feel for where that end of that socket is. Sometimes you put your finger on the inside there, you can actually feel the edge of the socket, and I've just done that, and we can just literally push that on. And of course you need to get your hand in down there and push it on both sides like that. There we go, that's on, I think. So bear in mind, normally you'd have mounts, you'd have plastic mounts on the board that help lift it up. I haven't got those, I took those out of this. We'll connect the fan up as well. I've just got a connector here for that. Let's power it on and hopefully... Oh, hang on a minute, switch it off. Made the same mistake here when I was testing those FPUs. I'll take it back out again. You've got internal, external jumpers on the motherboard to specify where the card gets its clock from. And in this case, we want it to come from the card itself. I think one of these is for the CPU speed and one of them is from a 90-degree phase shifted clock that the motherboard uses, so yeah, it's important that both of those are on. External. I'm being careful not to touch these caps. You know, the caps I fitted, that's perhaps why Stephen didn't fit them. You know, if you were to knock them, you'll break them off. But hopefully now that should boot. So let's try again, switch it on. Now, because this is a Proto, I find, there you go, sometimes you've got to switch it off and on once or twice. And those coloured bands signify that it actually has started to boot. But it is a prototype, and I cut myself off, I was explaining about that. So I think on the full one, it'll have EID again, but also I think 128 meg of RAM. It might even be 256 meg of RAM, I'm not sure. So, you know, what you're seeing in this video is a prototype. It's rock solid, stable, I can run anything on it, use it for hours on end. It's just that thing, you know, like I say, occasionally, when it's cold, I'll have to switch it off, switch it back on, and then it's alright when I first power it on. You don't get the cold lines, that's the clue that it hasn't booted. Yeah, let's just go straight in and do a speed benchmark there. And you can see up there, so 68060 plus 68882, 060 MMU in use. Look at that, 37272. Now that's only running at 50 megahertz at the moment, but that is staggering. It's more than twice as fast as 68040. Incredible. I absolutely love this board, it's brilliant. We'll have a look at the drive speed. I don't think this is going to be particularly fast because obviously it's just using the standard PIO on the onboard motherboard drive. So if we can get an EID interface working on this later, it'll be staggeringly fast. You can see 2.2 meg. That's actually not bad. That's pretty good for a 4000 with no mods and things to it. You know, when I say mods, I mean like, yeah, I've not done a PIO2 mod. I could do that later. I was thinking about doing that on the other A4000 motherboard actually. Just check one of the other drives on the same compact flash. Yeah, 2.2 meg, that's not bad. And I think prior to doing this upgrade, I was around 1.8 meg, so I've gained like an extra 400k just by going to the 4060 here. Now, of course, anybody who's got like a top of the range accelerator card and they've got SCSI interface and stuff, you're going to get ridiculous speeds. If you have like SCSI 2, you get like 10 meg there, I think, 8 to 10 meg roughly. But yeah, that's just the onboard IDE. You can't really gain much there. Beyond that, with these, you know, any CPU card really, you need something where it's got onboard SCSI or like this one, EIDE. But anyway, hopefully the EIDE will be working later. So as you can see up here, we've got 64 meg of local 32-bit fast RAM there, and obviously we've got the 16 megabytes in Sims on board. So you know that's going to be slower going via Ramsey than the 64 meg, you know, local to the CPU fast RAM. So that's fantastic. Now you may think 64 meg, that's not a massive amount really for something like this. Well, this was a Proto, is a Proto. The very latest version that Stephen's got has 256 megabytes of RAM. That is just unbelievable. I think I need to upgrade my, I need to upgrade from you know, this beta here to a full version. I'll see if I can buy one of those or get a board and build one or something when those become available. But 256 meg, plenty, more than enough than you would ever need really. You could always just add another 256 meg as a Zorro free card and have half a gig of RAM, which is just nuts. So the way the RAM is split up, and at the moment we've got 64 meg, it's just local fast. With it, when you've got the 256 meg, the way Stephen's done that is 128 meg is local to the CPU and 128 meg is auto config RAM. So if we go into AIBB, let's have a look at the benchmarks there. Yeah, so everything's reported correctly here, 50 MHz CPU and FPU, MMU's there, copybacks on, ME states on, everything's on, caches are on. If we just do, let's do Civ, we'll do, just fly through these and you can just see the results. Staggering, right up there. Sort, dry stone, memory test. Yeah, the interesting thing there is you can see, you know, there's seemingly a bottleneck there, but it depends where that's running from, doesn't it? Because it's the same as an A3025, which is a bit strange. It's obviously faster than an A4040. Let's do integer math. I apologise, I don't always do all the tests here. I do the ones I'm familiar with, the ones that I feel have any benefit really, like, I don't know, flops. Let's do that. And we'll do fmath. Now bear in mind this has got the FPU but it's not enabled for this test at the moment, so I'll show you the difference. Do flops first like that. So you can see it's right up there, very high, in between 55.8 and 62. But if we switch these things onto coprocessor math, forget where they are now, there we go, and do the same thing, flops, it should be considerably faster. Yeah, there you go, it was up to 62.5 before. Look at this, this is nuts. This is what you get with the full 68060. It's incredible. 1130, what a huge difference, it's unbelievable. And you'll see the same thing with the beach ball. Watch the beach ball now, look how fast that is. That is nuts fast, and we're only at 50 megahertz here. And this processor card will go to 100 now. Stephen has tested the latest beta and it'll go up to 100. The only thing it hasn't got working at the moment, you know, as this video stands, is the software control of the speed. So, you know, I think that it's got to be firmware set at the moment to get the speed you want. The same with the flops. Let's do an F matrix with it on. Yeah, it's like right up there, isn't it? Now, if I switch the coprocessor math off and we do the beach ball again, oh, you've got 040 math though as well. Run beach ball again, that's just the CPU. But even still, you compare that to any of the weaker CPUs there, like an 030 or even an 040, you don't get that performance. Let's do F matrix with and without. So with it on, we're up to 44, switch it off, we'll do F matrix again. Yeah, a bit lower. So you definitely gain by having the FPU there on those benchmarks. But yeah, it's staggering, isn't it? Absolutely staggering. So I'll connect a keyboard up and we'll run bus tests just to see what sort of throughput we're getting as things stand. And in a minute, I'm going to try and update the firmware. Right, so A500 keyboard connected up to the A2000 adapter, which goes to my A2000 to A4000 adapter. So there's videos on each of those actually. Of course I could just use the A2000 keyboard that I built actually, but that's away with my 2000 at the moment, so let's just go into bus test. It took me a while to work out the syntax there. We'll just wait for the results. So we're testing the fast RAM, the chip access speed and ROM. And obviously you've got different types of addressing going on there for the reads and writes and things. And obviously each of those has got different performance associated with them, the amount of bandwidth you can get. It'll certainly be interesting to compare this, because this is a very early launch beta firmware, compared to the firmware that I'm about to try and put on this. So when I say try, there's two things. We've got to, there's a CPLD on there, Xilinx, just like you get on the TF1260, or the 330, or the 520, or the 534, etc, etc. So that we can update using the Xilinx programmer, which you've seen me do before. But it's also got an FPGA there for the RAM side of things, and that has FPGAs, you know, there's different ways you can have them. I think you can have like an internal ROM. Well, this one doesn't. This has an external flash ROM. So the FPGA bootstraps from that when it powers on, I think, and that's what sets its configuration, if you like. The configuration is loaded from the flash ROM. So we need to flash that flash ROM. Now, on the latest version of this card, the full release version that Stephen's just published on the Exos forum, he's put a Pi Hat connection on there. What does that mean? It's a connector where you can just plug a Raspberry Pi into, and then use the Raspberry Pi to program both of those devices, the Xilinx chip and the Lattice FPGA. But with this beta, I haven't got that. So I could use a Raspberry Pi and wire up to the flash chip. I'll show you the chip in a minute. That's possible, but I would obviously need to be powering it and stuff. It's just going to get a bit messy. It might be easier, because it's only a very small 8-pin device, to use some hot air, remove the flash ROM, use my programmer. I'll dump it to start with. That could be an interesting one, because I'm not sure if the programmer supports the exact chip, but because it uses SPI, in theory I think it should still work. And then once I've done that, I can program up the new version of that flash ROM, solder it back onto the card, and hopefully things will work, assuming I've updated the Xilinx chip. Anyway, so you can see the results there. But before we update it, we'll just try a few other things as well. So I can show you Quake, so you can see what this runs like. Now bear in mind, you do need a full 060, you need the FPU to be able to run this version of Quake. As Stephen has said, if someone with elite coding skills programmed like Pocket Quake, whatever it is, it's like a portable version, isn't it? there's no reason why it probably wouldn't run pretty well on a fast LC processor. So as you can see, it runs really well. It's a little bit slow at 50. It doesn't run quite as well as the Falcon, I would say. But when I demonstrated this on the Falcon, I was running at 66 or 75 or even 100. I demonstrated those different speeds there in the Falcon video. I'll put a link to that top right. But this may also not be an optimised version of Quake. There's probably newer versions. And of course, because I've got a full 060 in here, we can run lots of the 060 demos now. I can't do that on my 1260 because I've only got an LC processor on it. And an interesting point, I guess, on the cost of these things now. The full 060 is extremely expensive. It's around, £300-ish. Maybe a bit cheaper in dollars and things. You're looking around $350, I think, for a full 060. Now, I bought this 060 about 3 or 4 years ago, just as Stephen announced that he was going to develop a TF1260 at some point. And I think I originally got it with the intentions of putting it on a TF360, which is the 060 board for the CD32. Now that's been updated as well recently. I think there'll be another revision of that. So maybe at some point I'll be able to do a video on that. Yeah, but the point I was trying to make is, because I bought that about 4 years ago, I got mine for £90. In retrospect, I wish I'd bought 3 or 4. I wish I'd been able to do that, because they've shot up so much. In like approximately 3 years, jumped from 90 to £300. That's ridiculous. And in part, in fact, in no small part, it's because of these boards. These Terrible Fire boards are, I believe, what's pushed the price up. So of course all those 060 demos work. I've tried loads of different ones. The Silkcut demo, I think Requiem's one. Jesus Christ Motocross, I can show you that.
Easy.
So switch it off. But you can see actually I've got the SID card in here at the moment. It's the only other Zorro card. Well, I've got a few Zorro cards I could put in here now, but that's the only thing I've chosen to fit in here. We'll test that later actually, but I'm pretty sure that is already working with the TF4060. Yeah, sometimes it can be a bit cowboy with wrist straps and think, oh well, you know, touch the power supply, I'll be alright. But with this 4000 now, I don't want to damage the 4000 and I don't want to damage this, so I'm not taking any chances. Certainly with that full 060 that would cost me £300 or more to replace. So let's just try, and there we go, prise it off and then lift it slightly, tilt it that angle and lift it out. I'm just thinking actually I'm going to need to power this, aren't I? This is the other complication with this. I'll need to power this board, so I need to work out where the 5 volts goes in. There might be something here I can use, or those 2 pins there perhaps, to power it in order that the JTAG will work. But I'll do the same thing on that, dump that first, because I'm not sure on the firmware that's on this. I want to be able to revert it back if things go wrong. So yeah, wish me well. I've been putting this part of the video off for a very long time, because you know what it's like if you've got something like this and it works, you almost feel like you don't want to risk breaking it. The other thing I've just noticed is obviously at the point where Stephen sent this, the EID wasn't working. I think that now works actually with the new firmware and the drivers, and I think it uses the same driver as the TF1260. So I'll go and see if we've got a spare connector there, and we'll get that on at the same time perhaps. Right, so if I am completely honest, it's brown alert time. If you've seen Red Dwarf, you'll know what I mean. Well, you know by the colour. I'm just going to add a little bit of flux in here just to assist getting this off. So I've got some Captain tape there. I've got an adapter, which I'll show you, for the TL866, and it was one of the reasons I bought it. I bought it second hand, but it came with a load of adapters, and I thought, actually, that is just what I need. The thing is, I'll show you now, the thing is, look how small the gap is there. It looks small enough, doesn't it? It looks big enough, rather, but that looks smaller. So I'm like, I'm not sure, maybe with the legs in place, it will just fit into that. So, and obviously it adapts to dip, so you can stick it in the programmer. Now the thing I'm not armed with at the moment, the information is I can't get the part number off the chip. I can't see it. Even with magnification, I cannot see a part number on it. So this is a huge problem. The worst thing that can happen here is this now dies and I have to send it back to Stephen. Or maybe I wrench a pad off or something. I don't know, let's just hope I don't. Captain tape's moving, look. Let's just try and get it up to temperature. and hopefully it'll slide off and it won't die. Well, would you believe it, about 30 seconds in there, the SD card filled up, so yeah, it's still a little bit warm here. It didn't get hot enough to desolder, but I don't need to do it again, now the card's empty. Otherwise you'd all be moaning, well, someone would, saying, oh, it's convenient you didn't show us the removal. What went wrong? Well, the card filled up, that's what went wrong. So, let's try again. Flux is fuming, captain tape is moving. There we go. Come on then, out of the way. There we are. Right, it's off. So, let's let that cool down a bit. Of course, I do need to work out what the part number is, because even if I can fit it in this, I'm not going to be able to dump it and program it if I don't know what it is. Right, so I just used a bit of IPA to clean the surface of it, and then magnification from the light on my phone, and the last few digits are F016B. I think it's 2 something, 26 or 29 or something. It's a microchip. Well, we know it's a microchip. What I mean is it's made by Microchip. The problem now is getting in here, isn't it? Oh my god, this is going to be really, really difficult. I've got to sort of, I don't know, it doesn't matter which way you get this, because obviously the pins just go through. You just need to get it the right way when you put it into the program. And let's just put it there, and then try and straighten it so it's on there. Is that on? And then do that. I'm not sure that's in, actually. So yeah, I'll report back in a minute. I need to do this under magnification to make sure the little contacts, when they go down like that, that they're actually clip into the pins. I can't really see whether that's in or not. God, this is so nerve-wracking, it really is. So you can see it now. If I just press it down, you see the pins go. So hopefully you can see the art actually going onto, when I release it, onto the pins. Sometimes with things like this, just pull a little bit like that. Because just from experience, I've found that sometimes you can just get a bit of a bad connection where it looks like it's connecting when it isn't. But yeah, magnification and checking up super close is what's required. So I now need to go and get this up to the TL866 and see if I can find a device that's the same or very similar to the part number. So it's not going to plan. The chip that I took off, I can read it, I can't erase it or program it. The software I'm using with the TL866 doesn't support the type of chip, the microchip version, version of chip that's on there. So I've ordered another microchip version that is supported by the software. I think the part number begins at SST something. I'll stick it up there. So, and I've checked with Stephen Leary. The chip is rated at 50 megahertz. The original one was 100, so I was a bit worried, thinking, is it going to be fast enough to, transfer the data to this? Stephen said it only needs to be 20 megahertz, so it should be all right. In the meantime, I've got a spare one of these. I remember ordering 2 of these at the time when I ordered the connectors for my TF1230, was it, or 1260? I forget which. So I figure we may as well get the IDE connector on there. Yeah, the latest firmware should work with that port. So let's just hold that in place, flip it over, anchor a couple of points here. It's buffered as well, look, by the looks of things. Yeah, they are going to that. My solder's nearly out, as you can see. I've got a tiny little bit left. And now the good news is, as I mentioned in a previous video, I've got some new solder. It's leaded 0.7mm, so it's a bit thinner than this. This is like, I don't know, 1mm or something, I think, or 0.9. It's a bit bigger, a bit thicker, a bit wider. Yeah, so I got some from CPC, and because they messed my order up twice, they ended up giving me the solder for free, which was really nice of them, actually. So yeah, if you're looking for some solder, order from CPC. If they mess you around a couple of times, you may get some free solder. So I've got the connector on there now. I just need to clean up the solder points. But I figure also, whilst I'm here, I've removed the captain tape. There's a little bit of flux still around there. Let's just absorb that solder there in preparation for the new NOR flash or whatever it is. Oh, come on, I can be careful. And that'll just make the whole process a lot easier. Now there are some headers there, as I mentioned previously, that you could use probably, but I think Stephen was saying one of the pins has got to be held low, and he's not wired the board to allow to do that, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I did connect. I've drawn a diagram down here, I'll show you in a minute. There's like 5 or so of the pins go to that pin header. They're doubled up, so it's like as you go across like that, it's like those two go to one pin, those two go to one pin, those two go to one pin, etc. Let's just see if we can get a bit of flux on there. Yeah, there we go. I've got to be really careful with these pads, they're so small. That will do. So I'll clean that now with a cotton bud and some IPA, ready for the chip, and I'll clean it underneath that ID connector. I'm so grateful for him building this though and sending it to me. It's just annoying it's took me so long to get around to doing this. A big part of it is the confidence to do with that chip there, if I'm honest. I filmed a lot of this, like I say, I had to redo it, but removing that chip, dumping it, program it, etc., that was my big fear. And it's funny as things transpired, the thing that I was worried about has happened, that the programmer just doesn't support it. So yeah, there we go. What I thought, you see, I'd be able to do, and I have been able to do that to a degree, is choose a different similar chip, something else in the micro chip range, and it does read it, but the codes and things it uses to unlock it and to erase it and stuff like that, those don't work. So when you erase it and then blank check, it's still got the original contents. That's one of the things that can make SPI a bit of a pain, but the protocol is probably really simple. It's just a series of bytes that get written in the right order so that you can lock it and erase it, etc. Of course, if I just got myself a Raspberry Pi, I could have used a Raspberry Pi to program that chip. I may do that at some of the point, I may do it as a video showing how you can do it. Yeah, I've just shied away from that. Well, Raspberry Pis have become quite hard to get hold of and all, and the prices of those have gone up. But for me, it's the software, fiddling around with the software, the OS. I mean, I've got some, Linux skills that I've used over the years, but I always just find it a little bit painful. Right, finally, the new flash ROM is here. I'm not sure if that's bigger. That looks bigger to me. It looks a lot bigger. It's a weird shape. It's like thicker than this one. So is it going to fit into this adapter here? I don't know. This could be a huge problem. And of course now I can't get it out. Oh, God. It's one of these things that, due to my lack of experience programming these, I wish to God I'd left it as it was. Hang on. So, yeah, it's going to go straight down. So I guess we can just get it in and then... That's not going to fit in there, is it? That is not going to fit in there. It's bigger. How is it bigger? Oh, what a blooming nightmare. Yeah, you can see them side by side there, look. How is it bigger? How is there a size that's ever so subtly bigger? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do here. I mean, I could try and squeeze it in, but it's not going to fit, is it? I've got an adapter here. Now, the pitch of that chip is perfect for here, so I could use this and plug this into my programmer. That would work. But then the pad spacing on here, let me just show you. If I just put the chip on the board there, you can see there ain't no way on hell or on earth that's going to fit there. You know, if you solder the pads on one side, look, they're off on the other. The package is actually as big as the pad spacing. I mean, you could bend the legs inwards and trim the ends off. Yeah, just about fit. But I don't know. I'm not sure what to do here. I mean, I've tried erasing this so many blooming times now, but luckily every time I reset the programmer, stick the chip back in and read it, it reads the same way it originally read, which is not dissimilar to the latest code. You know, there are differences, but the stuff at the beginning, the first few bytes, are the same, which leads me to believe that the contents of that are still okay. So, I mean, I could just solder it back on and keep it as is. It'd be nice to update it. Right, I've had to think about this. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder it onto here, put some pins on here, go program it up, take it off here, then trim the ends of the legs off, and bend them straight down, because at the moment they sort of come out a little bit and then down. If they're bent straight downwards, the profile, it's going to be very tight to solder it on, but I reckon I can get that on. But before I do any of that, I'm just going to go and compare the pinout again and just be 100% sure that it matches the chip that was on there in terms of the pinout, because there's no point going for all that rigmarole as there if I've ordered the wrong chip. But I think that should work. Right, so last bit of solder here. This is all I have left here. let's try and get this on. Oh God, nothing's ever straightforward for me, is it? You know what? If I just got myself a Raspberry Pi, maybe I could have avoided all this. But I'm not really a software. Well, I am a software person. I'm a software developer by trade. But you know what? I hate messing with Linux. I mean, it's all right once you get everything up and running with Linux. It's easy. There's nothing to worry about. But I just like, it's a bit of a battle, because the time when I used Linux in anger was 15 years ago, more or less, as it came out. And I've really had little need to use it in my jobs. They've all been Windows-based servers and things. So yeah, you can see it's crusty here. I am not using flux and stuff. I'm just literally just trying to bodge this on there, and a little bit of flux, and we'll see what's what. Right, let's have some flux. I mean, the thing that's worrying when you do something like this is, obviously we're heating it, then we're going to be using hot air to remove it, and then we're going to be bending the pins, and then we're going to be soldering it back on. Generally, it won't be a problem. It will survive that level of heating as long as you don't have to overheat it at any point. Anyway, you can see that's on. So I just need some pins now. I need to work out which pins these go to here. It's going to be these N4 ones, I think. That would make sense. So yeah, I need 4 pins on each side there, and then let's go program it. And out my parts sub here, you can see I just found these offshoots, just little bits that I don't even know why they weren't in my normal tray, actually, with all the rest of the header. But yeah, I just have these floating there as extras. Hang on, no, it's not straight. What I'm trying to do is just do it by eyeball it. So let's work out where pin 1 is, get it the right way in the programmer with pin 1 towards the top, and see if we can program that up. At least that's half the problem then. I just need to get it off, cut the legs and fit it on. So I had to remove the extra pins. Yeah, bear in mind, I should have had it the other way around really, and then the levers got in the way. And then I'm just doing a blank check here, so you can see the device I'm using there, an SSTV F016B. So I think the pin out is the same. I'm pretty sure of it. It's voltages and everything the same. Obviously it's a 3.3 volt device, I think. Right, so I've got all the files there. It's one of these ones here, isn't it? We've got the .jed and then we've got the .bin. So this is the latest code, I think. So we'll do that. Open, okay, there it is. Now I recognise, I was saying before about when I dumped the old one, there was the same, you had FF000, and then here you had 36772. I'm guessing there's going to be a header here that identifies what it actually is as it programs in. So if those header bytes and things probably aren't right, you've got an issue. So those are probably going to remain the same, is the point I'm trying to make, between different builds of the code. It could be wrong. It may just be that this part of the code here hasn't changed. So we'll now do device program. Now this would always fail on the other chip, or the verifier would certainly, because it's not sending the right bytes, help bits, there to unlock it for erasing, to unlock it for programming. So assuming this programmer works with this type of chip. Now it's taken ages here because it's a 2 megabyte chip, and the actual code is only about 130 something K, I think. So obviously it just blanks the end of it. Some programmers, you may be able to just specify the start and end, you don't need to do the full thing. You can probably do that here, actually. There's a thing at the bottom that says set the range, I think, and it's just set to all. So yeah, I could just sped that up by shortening the range. This is verifying. It's looking good so far. Normally it would have failed by now. Programming it successful, cancel. Let's go and try it. So I'm going to start by just using a bit of braid here, actually, I think, just to get the majority of the solder off. It should just make it a bit easier, perhaps. I could be wrong. There we go. Right, so we'll stick it on here. That's just, you can see I've got a template there that was for doing a Hollywood CPU on a GameCube. I might get around to finishing that video one day. Right, let's just hang it over. I don't know where to stick it actually. Let's just stick it there. So we've got the temperature a bit lower than I would normally have here. This is going to be really fiddly to do. Right, so I've moved that around. It's a bit easier to do it this way. This is often how I will do all the small things like this. Just pushing like that. So if we just heat up here, as I said, I've got the temperature at about, I don't know, 70 degrees less than I would normally do on a large PCB with a larger chip. There you go, it's control flow. So there was very little holding that on. It's just to move it up like that. That's it. So let's let that cool down. and we can start to mangle it with the cutters. Anyway, that can now be reused at some point, maybe with this chip. Well, so there you go. You can see the flat. The best way to do this, I'll show you, was literally just to grab all the pins like this and squeeze in, yeah, to flatten them to the edge, and then repeat that way around, because obviously the angle of the players means that you don't quite get the edge pins. But as you can see now, they come straight downwards, but obviously it stands up a little bit. So I just need to now just maybe inspect and trim down a bit further, because one side's been trimmed, one hasn't. Yeah, you can just about see that's going to be okay, I think. So I'll get some flux around there and solder that on. Right, so I've got the JTAG connected. I just need to connect the power and then plug the JTAG in. So I've got this here. I need to be very careful. Bear in mind, if you program one of these yourself, remove your 060. I'm kind of reluctant to do that because the pins on this, when I received it, was so bent, it was really hard to straighten them out, and it's really hard to get in and out of sockets. So yeah, I'm taking a bit of a calculated risk, but I have just checked that the 5 volts is where it's marked and the ground is where that's marked, so in theory it should be alright. So I'll be honest, I was absolutely bricking it while I was doing that, and the you know, the EEPROM bit as well, the NAND flash there. So, and that's one of the reasons I didn't film the exact program, but I've shown it before. I'll put a link below to the TF330 video. You can see how to program one of those up, and I probably covered it on some of the other boards as well, just briefly using Impact. But I dumped it first, yeah. So I had a good read of the original CPLD, saved that, and then programmed it. And it went no problems at all. Found it first time. But you see, when you're doing something like that, I was worrying about the power connection. Is it going to be reliable enough? If you lose ground or 5 volts while you're programming, you could literally kill the CPLDs. Now, one of the first things I did note there is the minute I powered it, I felt the CPLDs, that was just very lukewarm. Not hot, lukewarm, as if it's actually doing something. And it probably is, because the crystal will be feeding the clock in there, regardless of the fact the thing isn't doing anything. So that's why it was just lukewarm at that point. And it was the same by the time I finished programming. I tested the temperature again on them. Again, that one there, lukewarm. And obviously that's the JTAG one, isn't it? The lattice down here is the FPGA. So I've connected the fan up just in case something goes super hot. But if it does go super hot, it's game over probably. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. Right, so you pointed at the screen. I am very nervous. Hopefully we'll see the coloured bars and not bang or something burning up. Oh yes, we saw the coloured bars. Now, does that mean, well, bear in mind the code on the NOR flash is for the RAM, so maybe the RAM says not doing anything now, is it? Yeah, that's not booting. Yeah, I think that little flash chip is not working properly. I'm just feeling the top of it, stone cold, so it's not like there's a wiring problem, but I think that that's my problem. So back up and running with the original firmware. Now, it could be the chip for the you know, the NOR flash that I ordered. Maybe it's the wrong type of chip. Maybe there's, you know, some sort of difference. Obviously it's SPI, the pinout look the same, but there could be a difference there that I'm overlooking that's blatantly obvious to somebody like Stephen. So yeah, I think that's the issue. If it's not that, it could be that that firmware is targeting maybe 100 megahertz on the off, or maybe 75 or faster, I don't know. Maybe this full R6 I've got doesn't want to run that fast with this board at the moment, I don't know. So yeah, we've gone back to the original firmware. So I'm relieved that I've managed to get back to where I was, you know, that I've not destroyed this card, because you know what, I'm not that fussed if I can't go faster than 50 with this, you know, it's a Rev Zero, it's like the initial prototype, and that means more to me, I think, actually, than trying to bring it in line with you know, the final version. I think what we'll do is just buy the latest version when Stephen makes that available. There's a hair there, I can see it, it needs to clean that PCB now. Yeah, buy the latest revision, the release candidate, when that comes out, and you know, I'll buy the chips and things and just build another one, and then ultimately what I think I would do is put one of my spare LC processors on this board. I think that would work, and put this full R6 on the next one, but it'd be nice to keep the Proto as it is. You know, Stephen's worked on this himself, we've got these wires and things here, and you know, I just think it's a piece of history there, so yeah, I'm not that fussed about upgrading that PCB, I think. So you've probably seen these demos before on the Falcon, showed some of them there. So yeah, compared to the Falcon, as I say, I think the video quality on the Falcon's a little bit better. And at 50 megahertz here, yeah, it's obviously it's just a little bit jerky compared to the Falcon, because I was testing that like most of the time over 66 megahertz. I think that was the default clock speed on the Falcon. But yeah, it is working. It's working really well. Yeah, that kind of looks like a bit of a slideshow compared to the Falcon version. I mean, it's not bad, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to diss the Amiga here. What I'm saying is, for whatever reason, the Falcon one seems a bit more optimised. Yeah, now this is where it's going to run really slow, even on 50 megahertz 060. 4-bit chunky to planar. If we try it on that and we just go OK, it's set to use the SID card, and you can see straight away there 70 to 80%. Ignore the thing here, I could have changed it so that it's a different screen resolution. But if I do load, as soon as you get to the crack trail, you'll hear the blooming problem. It's way too slow. You really need RTG. And if you wonder what RTG is, retargetable graphics. Basically, you know, you've got a graphics card sat on the bus somewhere there where you can, the CPU can directly read and write to and from its RAM, and then you've got a GPU of some sort on there to throw it all around. But listen how slow that is. We're down to 25% here. Totally unplayable. Let's just see if we can skip that. So yeah, you can see again 23% performance on the left there. But this is the problem with Frodo. I think that Frodo could be better written. I could be wrong. It may just be a bottleneck with the graphics. Now bear in mind, with AGA, you've got like 4 times the bandwidth, haven't you? I think. But you can hear it's slow. It's 68%-ish, isn't it here? But it does work that way. Now, if you want to play the C64 that way, ignore the hanging notes, the best thing to do is put it in 1-bit, save, OK, let's do run. It's so quick now, it's ridiculous. As you can hear. So that shows the 060 is super fast. Now you could argue, because it's only having to send a single bit, it could still be a CPU bottleneck. That's true, you know, we're all dealing with black and white here. It's also funny to listen to the music so fast. Yeah, so 144%-ish there. Makes me wish I had an RTG card now to test this with. That's coming from an actual SID, by the way. Hit fire. There we go. Have you ever played Ghosts and Goblins in 1-bit, super scrunched up like that? It's a whole new experience. You can actually do it though, believe it or not. So I'll try that again. I can't seem to find a higher detail mode, but you can go full screen like that. So we'll see what that's like, and I think the answer is good but very blocky. You know, it runs really well there, doesn't it? It's like playing Doom in the low-res mode, basically. Ah, it's not showing up. That's interesting. It's not detecting it, which is curious. So I'll let Liv know that, because I would have assumed that should work with the 4000. There's nothing getting hot on, it's definitely the right way around, and that board does work, it just doesn't work here. So that's something for Liv 2 to have a look at. You can test it in his 3000. And again, I don't see why it wouldn't work. It's going to sit inside the... hang on. It's not going to sit inside the card, is it? In the slot. Yeah, it sits inside the Zorro 2 area, this. So, I don't see why this wouldn't work either, but yeah, let's just give it a go. So I need an adapter here, and get a compact flash card into it, and it goes that way up, doesn't it? And if it does work, I'd be interested just to benchmark it actually. Yeah, so we didn't get the other drives, did we? Let's go into sysinfo, look at boards. Yeah, it's really weird. It's like Zorro 2 cards are not detected on this machine at the moment. That's really odd. Right, so I've gone through quite a few different combinations of things here, and actually nothing is working, even my A2091. I'm a bit worried I've got a Zorro fault on here. So I think the next thing we're going to do is swap over the CPU card for the A3640, just to make sure that my Zorro's not knackered. But it could be just this beta. You've got to remember it's a beta this. Stephen has improved it and got it working. It works alongside Zorro 3 cards and stuff. He's had no issues. So yeah, this is just me testing a prototype here. And that's working with the 3640 there. You can see the LED is on. So yeah, there must be some teething issue. Bear in mind, this was like a really, really, really early alpha. You can see that booted from SCSI without an issue. Switch that off. I'm going to try the same thing now with the AT card. So we're testing here with the A3640. Let's see if it'll boot from that card. And the answer is yes, it actually booted. The 8 meg RAM board from Live 2 works, as does the IDE. I managed to boot off it without an issue. So yeah, this early proto that I've got here to look at seems to have an issue with the Zorro. But bear in mind, if I could update the firmware on it, that would solve it probably, because I think the latest firmware he's got is solid. It's just annoying I can't blooming get the latest firmware on. So I thought that was amazing. A lovely bit of trolling there by Stephen towards Chucky, because Chucky's a hardcore Amiga fan, and yeah, I think he must have thought hell froze over when he saw that boot screen there as it booted up as an Atari. I hope that carries forward into the future release firmwares actually. So huge thanks to Stephen for sending this. I'm sorry it's took so long to get round to. Like I said, there's been a number of things. Lost some footage. I was procrastinating over the firmware update on this, and you can see why. Yeah, I had some problems. A thought did cross my mind. I could just pay Stephen for the chip or something to see if he'll post me a chip with the latest firmware, and I could retry it. I can update the Xilinx on there. It may just be some sort of incompatibility with my motherboard, because we're still in the testing phase, they're still in the beta phase, despite the fact that the firmware Stephen's got is more fleshed out, I should say. And obviously there've been new board revisions as well since I got this, and the latest one will have 256 meg, EID will be working, it's got the Pi Hat header, so yeah, absolutely amazing, incredible work Stephen. So hopefully you found the video interesting. I'll catch you in the next video.